Hello, I'm Seth, Photopoulos, editor-in-chief for Forbidden Origins Comics, and I just recently beat Clair-Obscur Expedition 33. Now, if you don't know, and it'd be a surprise if you didn't now because it's kind of taken the world by storm, Clair-Obscur Expedition 33 is an indie JRPG made in France, so not quite JRPG, but heavily inspired by JRPGs that have been recently breaking records and has been kind of like the jewel of games journalism and the video game industry as we are in the middle of a video game crash. One of the cool aspects of Expedition 33 is that it takes inspiration from damn near everything, from Devil May Cry to classics of the JRPG genre, from Lost Odyssey, Final Fantasy, and of course Persona more recently. You can see it in its battle menus. And of course, as I was playing it and pairing creatures that have the craziest fucking jukes you'll ever see, I've been thinking about Persona a lot and the ways it's kind of fallen short. So here's the thing. Persona is weirdly fucking conservative for its themes. Now what I'm going to be talking about is mostly 3, 4, and 5, especially 4. For those who don't know, Persona 3, 4, and 5 is kind of like a life sim JRPG mix-up where you're going to class like throughout the year. There's a calendar system. You're doing homework. You're like having relationships with like all your friends and like girlfriends and stuff like that. And then usually at night you go to a dungeon and you use your weird Pokemon psychic creatures to fight monsters. Usually the monsters are the aspects of humanity's psyche. Now, the Persona series are kind of like the YA spin-off of Shin Megami Tensei, which is like broader series by the same creators that's focused on the war between God and the devil. That tends to be a lot more philosophical, a lot less straightforward in its storytelling. Persona, the main characters tend to be teenagers. It's mostly about school, and there's usually like a straightforward path to its story. And because of that straightforward path, it tends to focus on a theme. So the theme for Persona 3 was death, with suicide being a major motif throughout. Persona 4 is pursuing your true self, and Persona 5 is the theme of rebellion. Now there's actually less for me to talk about with Persona 3 here because frankly, everything points to that theme of death, and it handles that pretty well. So just going to push that out there. I will bring it back a tiny bit just to talk about some homophobia, but that's what Persona 4 is for. But before we get to Persona 4, which is what I mainly want to talk about, we're going to talk about Persona 5 and its theme of rebellion. So the main character of Persona 5 is kind of sent away from his hometown to live in Tokyo, I believe. Or, yeah, I think it is straight up Tokyo, not a fake city like the other two. And then largely because he stumbled upon a politician sexually assaulting somebody late at night, and they decided to make his life hell. And so his parents were like, oh, well, we're too ashamed of our child, so let's send him to live with an old man that a friend of ours knows. Now, eventually he gains the psychic powers of Persona, along with a bunch of outcasts from his school, and they take down various sexual predators, plagiarists, businessmen, and corrupt politicians, with the major theme being like, hey, we are the rebellion of youth. They are the old heads that have completely corrupted and blocked the system from anybody else that could succeed, creating outcasts. So we will fight them and, help society by tossing those motherfuckers out, bringing in the new people. There we go. But then you get to the social links and stuff in Persona 5. They're confidants, I think, in Persona 5. Again, I love these games. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, criticism, you hate. I love these games. But you get to the social links in Persona 5, and a lot of them seem to revolve around like, well, you have to accept that the system is thus, and you just got to find your place within it, which goes against the theme of rebellion. And like, you would think a game with the theme of like the rebellion of youth, it would end with like, well, we get to decide what the future is, because now we have the power, we have control, a lot of our will create the future. But instead the game kind of ends, oh, you're just gonna have to deal with this shit, dude, sorry. Which is like, it's not necessarily a terrible theme, it just goes against the rebellion theme. In fact, Persona 3 has a very similar theme of like, you will die, fucking accept it. And it's like, okay, there's an inevitable situation I can't get away from, so I just have to accept it. In the case of rebellion, it's like, no, you can fight against this. You can do something about it, but ultimately, not really. Then we get to Persona 4, which is Pursuing My True Self. That's the theme. That is the title theme, actually. The song Pursuing My True Self. That's what pretty much every fucking character says whenever you do their dungeons. It's like, oh, this is me. I am me. But then again, the game also does this thing where it's supposed to be pursuing your true self, your true form, who you are as a person, regardless of what society done to you. But then at the end, it's like, well, just accept what society puts you in. The two characters you can see this with the most are Kanji and Naoto. So here's the thing. I did say previously, I love these games. I fucking hate Persona 4 The Golden. For those of you who don't know, Persona games have like a special edition that releases like a year or two after the original comes out. So Persona 3 turns into Persona 3 FES. FES added like new personas, new cutscenes, and an entire new DLC like story mode. Persona 4 does something similar with Persona 4 The Golden. There's like a new character, a new dungeon, and like you can do gardening and stuff. Persona 5 The Royal is the special edition of Persona 5. Again, new character, new social links. You can do a lot in that game. New like DLC. Persona 5 Royal, very good. Probably the best of these special editions. But Persona 4 The Golden, the absolute worst. Now, some Persona fans might be confused, like, because FES has The Answer, which is the DLC that nobody fucking likes because it's long, boring, hard, and doesn't really offer much in terms of narrative, even though it's supposed to. Not really, not in a way that people are really satisfied by, but they love Persona 4 Golden. But here's why I hate it. They fucking took all the queer shit out of it. A long time ago, somebody interviewed like some of the developers of Persona 4 after the PS2 version came out, and they were talking about, well, is Kanji gay? And the guy's like, no, he's not gay. He's not supposed to be gay. And it's like, okay, oh my God. If you made that dungeon for Kanji and he isn't gay, you are disastrously homophobic. So let's talk about these characters. Kanji Tatsumi is a 15-year-old boy. He's dressed like a biker. He's kind of like filling in the bully role. Everybody's terrified of him just because of how scary he is. But then later, they're terrified of him because he might be gay. So the twist with his character is that he's very sensitive, actually, and he does stuff like knits. He create like little plush dolls that he like gives to little kids. He's known as Softy, and he has a crush on Naoto, who is boy genius detective. And he does not know how to deal with that crush because he's 15 years old in a small town, probably conservative, has no fucking clue what to do with those feelings. Of course, he's a tough guy. He's like this bully character. He beats up adult bikers as a 15-year-old kid, so he has a lot of insecurity, being a possibly gay kid in a small conservative town, when he has this image of like, I am masculine. So the conceit of Persona 4 is that a lot of the main characters that you're playing with in your party get kidnapped one by one. You're trying to solve a mystery of who's kidnapping these people. They get kidnapped by being tossed behind a TV. So like they are going through TVs, like physically, to enter like an alternate dimension. And the TVs are meant to like show your true self. For Kanji, his true self becomes like this man in a bathrobe who speaks with a lisp, the gay affect, you know what I'm saying? And then his dungeon is a bathhouse. And of course, since you're all high schoolers, a lot of you are deeply uncomfortable just arriving in said place. Especially the anime adaptation takes that to another level by having all the characters physically disgusted that Kanji could be gay. Anyway, you make it through his dungeon, and at the end of all the dungeons, the characters are faced with a shadow version of themselves, like their dark heart, their heart's true feelings that they have been repressing this entire time. The shadow part's like, you're gay, and Kanji's like, no, I'm not gay, so you have to fight him, and then he becomes like this giant gay monster, and you beat up the gay monster, and then at the end, Kanji accepts him. Except, he doesn't quite accept that he's gay. He goes like, oh, sometimes I'm effeminate. Okay. So here's the thing, that message in and of itself isn't necessarily bad. Masculinity can come in many forms. Fine, you can use that message. The problem is you've surrounded that message with a bunch of weird homophobic shit so that if Kanji isn't gay, you've completely fucked up. The worst part of the game is probably the camping area that is both weirdly sexist, very horny for teenagers. A big joke in that is that the male characters are terrified of sleeping with Kanji because they think he will rape them because he's gay. Even though he's not gay, they think he's going to rape them because he's gay, so they go and sneak out and try to sexually assault some the female characters. Fucking terrible. But then you get to his crush on Naoto. Now, Naoto is presented immediately as this boy genius detective. In fact, a large reason why Kanji is insecure is because Naoto comes into town to try to solve this mystery, and Kanji is just smitten. It's revealed that through Naoto getting kidnapped, they are female born at birth, and that they are only pretending to be a man to find acceptance in being a boy detective genius. And again, there's nothing wrong with Mulan, like as a story, like thematically. There's nothing like inherently problematic with it. The issue becomes how they fucking surround the theme. Now, Naoto's dungeon is absolutely disgusting. If you are trans ally or trans yourself, that you will lose your fucking mind, because it is a dungeon where it's a lab, and the fake Naoto, the shadow Naoto, is trying to like forcibly trans Naoto into being a male. Now, if you don't recognize that, that's like pretty much what every fucking Nazi conservative is saying about trans children right now. So fucking baffling that that's an entire dungeon. And here's where we get into my distaste of Persona 4 The Golden. Now, the original PS2 version of Persona 4, the one I grew up with, after that moment, they refer to Naoto as he, him, the entire time. And I'm going to refer back to that interview from a long time ago where they brought up, like, hey, is Kanji gay? And they're like, no, what the fuck is wrong with you? They did something similar with Naoto. It's like, hey, does Naoto want to be a man? They're like, no, you're fucking stupid. But his dungeon is about becoming trans. So, like, what the fuck are you talking about? And now, because Naoto is confirmed female and just pretending to be male, Kanji can be straight because he likes a girl. And the game does try to poke fun at it. There's a part where she's in a woman's bath, and apparently she has the biggest bust of them all, a 15-year-old girl. Isn't that fantastic? And then Persona 4 The Golden further doubles, triples, quadruples down on it by including the epilogues that de-queer these characters even further. For some reason, they never got together, Kanji and Naoto. I think that's because you can get with Naoto, so like they had to not deal with that in case you romance Naoto. So I'm not going to entirely blame them, but Naoto is wearing traditionally feminine clothing. Kanji is like the straightest nerd you've ever seen. It's fucking baffling. And then like all the pictures, like everybody's calling Naoto a female now, like as opposed to the original where they kept the he him pronouns. She looks more feminine, and then they have that flashback to the future, that flash forward to the future, and that picture of they're all adults, and like her bust is just like, and that whole thing runs through Persona 4, where pursuing your true self just means try to fit into society in a way that's comfortable for you, not really like try to buck against it or anything like that. If you're gay, you're not gay, you just like masculine women. But it's the fact they use queerness as an aesthetic to tell like these very cishet stories that really rubs me the wrong fucking way. And then of course Persona 5, the Royal had to take this out, but in Persona 5 there was a moment where two gay men run into you and your best friend character, and they try to sexually assault your best friend just because they're gay, and they think that's funny. And then Persona 3, there's the infamous like babe hunt scene. I haven't played the Reload version of that scene, but in the original it was teenage boys running around a beach trying to hit on girls. Most of them are adults, so they're like, stay away from me, until they get to one who's like this 30-year-old woman, and she's like, oh wow, you're fucking sexy. So like already red flags there, because these kids are like 16. But turns out she's trans, so everybody's grossed out about it, and it's like, oh wow, this trans person's a pedophile? Isn't that fucking haha? But it's like, if you're going to do shit like that, why have this progressive aesthetic about yourself? Like, just fully embrace being conservative, or fucking snap the fuck out of it. If you want the story to be about how Kanji has to accept that masculinity comes in many forms, instead of like Kanji's fucking gay, don't use the fucking bathhouse. Just fill his dungeon with fucking the plushies he's making that he's trying to hide from everybody. If you don't want Naoto to be fucking trans, don't use a fucking surgeon trying to trans this child. I don't know, surround it with like fucking sports shit and be like, oh my god, you're not allowed in. Like, just have like blocked entries like, you're not allowed in, you don't fit what we believe. Instead they use queerness as shock value. Like, look at that, Kanji could be gay. Isn't that fucking scary? Isn't that fucking disgusting? Oh, look at this, Naoto could be trans. How scary is that? Imagine if that happened to your child. You wouldn't like that. To be fair, a lot of these people playing the games are teenagers, so it's like, imagine if you were forced to be trans. It's like, oh, no. All that to say, I'm very interested in going back to Metaphor Refantasio. I've only played like a month of that game, so I didn't really get that far, and the themes are about racism, so I want to see if like they've improved in some way, or if it's going to be mealy-mouthed, if it's going to be centrist at best, or if it's going to be deeply conservative, like the Persona series tends to be. All that to say, please, Persona 6, fucking get your shit together, work out your themes. Please stop trying to contradict yourself. Just be your true self, really. Anyway, I'm Seth, editor-in-chief of Forbidden Origins Comics. Like our video, subscribe to our OrigiNation media channel, and join our Discord. All right, have a good day.